I am a social practice artist, and I do work that is really working to create social and political change, not just symbolically, but actually. And I have just spent the last 3 years completing my training to become an intermodal expressive arts therapist. And what that really means is I've done this training in becoming a trauma-informed facilitator, so that I can work with communities, I can work with individuals who have gone through trauma, and to help give them a voice and to help them transform. What I've also done over the last couple of years is to really become an activist, like many of us have 2 years ago, and to really fight for rights for women, immigrants, and minorities. And we must step into the pages of history. We must raise our voices, and this is the time to do that. So my art and my activism really work together to try to make that happen. And along the way, I have met my friend, Dr. Tricia Gallagher-Gertzen, who headed up a brand new women's group, and we work together with many strong women of our community and our families to help create change. We're intergenerational. We've become 4 generations of women in our families working together to make change. And one of these women of a generation in front of me is Sherry Chesson, and I recently had an event where we screened Sherry Chesson's film, A Private Matter, and this was the film about Sherry's battle to help women in the United States have choice, because when Sherry was a young woman, she went through a very traumatic situation and had to choose to have an abortion, and there were no abortion rights for women. So Sherry and her fight and her bravery and her heroicism helped pave the way for Roe v. Wade, and she showed me what true courage is really about. And meeting Sherry just really strengthened my desire to be an advocate and to raise my voice. And with Me Too, we've had the opportunity to raise our voices to all forms of interpersonal violence that so many of us have endured. And Me Too gave permission to survivors to tell their stories. And so with my friend Tricia Gallagher-Gertzen and Deanna and Dawn and myself and the rest of the women in our group, we actually have been able to visit the senators' field offices and to talk to them and share our concerns about women's rights and minority rights and immigrant rights and gender nonconforming rights and LGBTQ plus rights, and we present letters to them and asks. And in this instance, we presented a letter to Senator Feinstein's office with 1,000 signatures from women physicians around the country who were supporting Dr. Blasey Ford and opposing Kavanaugh's nomination. And Senator Feinstein admitted it into evidence, into the record on the Senate floor. We heard our letter announced on the Senate floor during the hearings. And that makes me want to cry, because it just made me understand that this work can create really lasting change. And so Dr. Blasey Ford's testimony ignited something very powerful in me, and I really had to take a stand. And during that week, I was invited to participate in the LA Art Show during the week of Dr. Blasey Ford's hearing. And I was very activated, and so the piece I wanted to do had to really stand up for survivors. Simultaneously, I was doing a training with the Anti-Defamation League, with a program that they offer, a curriculum called No Place for Hate. And in addition to everything that I was already doing, it just really gave me the very specific skill set on how to go from being a bystander to being an upstander. That's what they call it in their language, of taking the risk of speaking out. And Dr. Blasey Ford did that. Sherry Chesson did that. And I also, in my story, which wasn't nearly of the scale of theirs, but I wanted to have the opportunity to speak out. So I was able to do something very important, and that is I reached out to an expert in the field of interpersonal violence, Dr. Jennifer Freyd, because during the testimony I saw that there was a tactic being used that's very common to perpetrators, and I knew this from being a domestic violence counselor. It's known as DARVO. This is Jennifer Freyd's work: deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So that the attacker actually makes themselves sound like the victim. And that's what happened to Dr. Blasey Ford. So anyway, what Dr. Jennifer Freyd taught me from discussing this with her directly, she let me reach out to her. She let me talk to her and to learn more about her work, very openly and very graciously. And she says, and she writes in much of her work, that the antidotes to these tactics, for people who've been victimized by interpersonal violence and institutional violence, is to have courage, to stand up. And she said the same thing that they said at No Place for Hate. You need to stand up. You need to say no. And that courage has a direct change on the situation. It reduces the harm. And that the other thing that reduces the harm is knowledge and education. And that just even by understanding DARVO, we reduce DARVO. By understanding the mechanisms of violence, we reduce violence. So, when I was invited to do this piece for the LA Art Show, I proposed a project called Survivor, Share Your 98-Second Story. Because every 98 seconds there is a sexual assault in the United States right now. And that statistic is just unacceptable to me. And I wanted to gather a group of artists who have survived sexual assault, interpersonal violence, survivors, to share their 98-second story of what happened to them so that they can courageously heal. They can courageously address the public. We can stand together and we can ask for better. Together, we can help prevent an artist in the future from surviving the things that we have gone through. And we know, that there is intimidation, there is oppression, there is a lot of things that happen to people who've been victimized, and that if we have a strength together and we stand as artists, that we can help create change. And that's what this project is about. It's about creating change through our courage and being present. And I really hope I get the opportunity to get this grant to help bring this project to life. And I also hope that I have the opportunity to continue this project more than just for the upcoming event, but for future events and future opportunities to bring artists together to create change.